Just over my shoulder, over there on the other side of the harbour, just outside the gates to Outremer's yard, there's a jazz band playing. And they're celebrating the final Outremer 51 to come off the production line. Meanwhile, over here, we've got the Outremer 52, the boat that's taking over, and the boat that's caused already a lot of conversation, a lot of stir, not least of all in the order books. Before they've even launched the first boat, they'd sold over 60 of these boats. So to find out how and why the latest Cat has proved so popular before it even hit the water, we've come to Outremer's home, La Grande Motte in the south of France. And to kick things off, we're heading offshore for a couple of days. So we left La Grande Motte about half an hour, 14 minutes ago. We're now a couple of miles offshore where the conditions have really picked up in this offshore breeze. We're just going past Port Camargue. We're going to turn around the headland and then head east up towards Marseille, up the Frioul Islands, which is about 70 miles away. And at 10 knots, that shouldn't take too long at all. We've been cracking along for a couple of hours now, and the breeze has come up. In fact, it's come up quite a lot. We've got gusts of up to 29 knots at times, which has made it quite fruity. The sea state's got quite entertaining as well. But we are still cracking along at 10 or 11 knots. Very impressive. It's such a sure-footed feel on this boat, and a really nice boat to helm as well. And just in case you're thinking, well, come on, I know about Outremer, I need some comparisons. Well, I have one for you, because just to leeward is an Outremer 55. We're actually doing this as a double act to get some kind of comparison. And the 55 is obviously a little bit bigger, but we've just been tracking alongside her now for a couple of hours. There's not much difference in speed, even though this is a smaller boat. One of the things that's particularly interesting about this boat right from the off is the steering, because it's not quite what you'd expect. Yes, it's very comfortable. Yes, it's in a great place. You can see forward, very comfortable seating here. But it's also a very innovative arrangement, because this whole pedestal actually rotates all the way in. In fact, it's got, I think it's 4 positions. We'll show you some of that a little bit later. But that's not all. Because interestingly, whilst you might expect to find this on the other side of the boat, it isn't. Because on the port side of the boat, you get this, a carbon tiller, which is quite a lot of fun. We've actually got quite a big swell running down here, and we're surfing down the waves. It's a big boat to be handling on a tiller, but it's good fun. It's easy to do. You certainly get into the groove of it going downwind. But why would you want to have a boat with asymmetric steering? Well, there are a number of reasons. According to Outremer, and I've no reason to doubt them, these are blue water cruising boats that spend most of their lives on autopilot. So actually, in many ways, it doesn't matter where the steering position is. And certainly if you look across, I'd say probably the majority of the multi-hull cruising scene, certainly the cruising Cats, you'll find steering positions that are offset anyway. So maybe it's not that different in the first place. The other reason they say that they didn't offer the wheel that you've got on the starboard side on the port side was because to do that would use up quite a lot of space in the cockpit and compromise some of the bits that they're really justifiably quite proud about, including the really nice walk-through into the cockpit area. This whole area works so well, so they would have had to have compromised that. And actually, having a tiller is a bit of fun. And anybody who knows Outremer's will know that a lot of their boats, particularly boats like the 4X, was a tiller-steered boat, and a lot of fun to sail as well. So it's not really that big a break from tradition. In fact, you could argue it's exactly what they're about. But it's certainly an interesting way of doing it. We're about 7 or 8 miles away from our anchorage just off Marseille, and the breeze has dropped, and I'm pleased to say the sea state has calmed down as well, although we do have this very long sweeping swell behind us which is allowing us to surf down the waves, which is a bit of fun as well. But with the decrease in the breeze, we then furled up the staysail, pulled out the big headsail and chucked out the 2 reefs in the main, all of which was dead straightforward, all of which was performed from right in front of me. Very easy, very straightforward. We're now, as I say, sailing in less breeze, but actually sailing quicker. We are over 10 knots all the time. We've hit a peak speed of just over 13 knots, and the boat is so well balanced. Not that she wasn't before, but you can just feel how that extra knot of speed and the balance between the main and the jib has given her that really nice, sensitive and direct feel. It's a beautiful boat to sail, particularly now. It's very well balanced. We can surf down waves, and when you look at the boat from off the boat and you look at that big powerful sail plan and the big square top main, you can see where she generates her power and her performance from. But it's all very, very manageable indeed.
After a very convivial evening where we tested entertaining to the full, it was time to get back underway for the return passage.
Yesterday was a bit of a baptism of fire, but she certainly performed extremely well. But today she's revealing a different side, and it's very impressive. Because for a lot of people, it's what happens in the light airs that probably counts for a bit more. How early do you have to actually put those engines on? How little breeze can you sail in? Well, the answer's revealing itself this morning. We started off with about 5 or 6 knots of breeze, and she ghosted along at 3 or 4 knots quite happily. But as the breeze came up to what it is now, 12 knots, we're going upwind at 9 knots in 12 knots of breeze at a true wind angle of 67 degrees. That's pretty good for any cat. And the reason for that, well, apart from the superb sail plan, is the dagger boards. On the leeward side, we're fully down, and she draws a staggering 2.6 metres. That's why she goes upwind.
As we made our way back out into open waters, the breeze and sea state started to build again. But this time, we were hard on the wind.
We've had quite a variety of conditions, largely in sea state. And that's been particularly interesting aboard this boat, because whilst the sea state is flat and we've got about 15 to 17 knots of breeze now, 10 minutes ago it was a very different story. We had over 20 knots of breeze and a much bigger fetch and bigger waves and a very awkward sea state to get over, and we were going dead upwind. And that appears to be where this boat really excels. Outremer have always made a big thing about their boats going wind in 20 to 30 knots true, and I can see why. Because as we were sailing upwind in that difficult sea state, you could really feel the influence of the dagger boards. Every time we came over a wave and down the other side, you just need to put the bow down a little bit, press on the board, the boat would accelerate, and off you go again. It was a very satisfying experience, if I'm honest.